Welcome into One of One Sports. So the college basketball season is ending. We're getting March Madness, so I thought it'd be fun to see which college teams basically produce the best NBA players and who would have the best teams if their rosters were constructed of their players who are in the NBA. I included any college that had five or more players, so enough to have a starting five. So obviously international players are not included, and I still included players who are injured out for a season, players like Kyrie Irving, Joel Embiid, players like that. I still included on their teams. And then I used NBA Real GM for every player actively in the NBA. So if I missed someone, I do apologize. And then final note, if a player transferred, it is based off the final team they were at before being drafted, not any other teams they were on. Now, there were actually two teams who, when I initially started, had five players and have since dropped out. The first of those teams is Houston. Not a terrible team. Jamal Shed, Marcus Sasser, Quentin Grimes give you some solid guard play. Jarris Walker, a nice big. But I think it's Tosmore. I never really heard of him before, or I never heard of him before. And he was in the league, I guess, on a two-way contract that has since ended, no longer in the league. So they can no longer fill the roster. Still put him in the video. And I would say they're trending up because the program has been great under Kelvin Sampson, and they're having, I think, their highest ranked recruiting class in program history coming in next year. You'll see more players added to this, and they will improve. Next team that's like that is Vanderbilt. They have Darius Garland as their star player, but also Aaron Nesmith, very solid, Scottie Pippen Jr., and Luke Cornett, not bad either. But Liam Robbins, like Taz Moore, no longer in the league. He was the Stars video. And I would say this team's slightly trending up since their players are relatively young and the program has been better, having their best season in about like 8 years, I want to say, in college basketball. So I think they'll start getting more players again, and maybe they can actually make this list in a couple seasons. Now we get into the teams that are officially have five or more players. So number 32 and basically last place is the Memphis Tigers. What we're looking at here is a team that does not fit well together. You have Precious Achua running three. He's more suited for the five. And then no real star power here. Your best player is Jalen Duren. You only have five players, so no depth. The only reason I said they're trending up is because the team is pretty good this year. You probably add at least one player to the league, and these players are relatively young, so there's room for them to get better. But yeah, not a good team at all here. 31, we have Maryland Terrapins, or the Maryland Terrapins, another team with only five players. Jameer Young at the point has done nothing in the NBA yet. But he is officially in the league. And then that is not Andrew Wiggins. It is Aaron Wiggins of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Solid player next to Kevin Herter, Jalen Smith, and Alex Lynn. Obviously not a very good team, but I'd say you're trending up since Derek Queen, currently on the college team, projected to be probably a lottery pick, borderline lottery pick, maybe. So when you're adding a player of that caliber, you expect to get better. And no one here is super old except maybe Alex Lynn. Like I said, you can replace him with the center, Derek Queen. So they're still trending up, but not very good right now. Number 30 is Marquette. Here's a team where you do have like a true star in Jimmy Butler, but what he's surrounded by is not great. You have young players, Tyler Coley, a rookie, Oso Iguodala, a rookie, Max, I forgot to say his full name, but Prosper is still young, hasn't done much, and then Jay Crowder, very old. But I put him ahead of the other two teams just because you do have a bona fide star in Jimmy Butler, and you are expected to add another NBA player this year in Cam Jones. So I would say it's a slight trend up since everyone else is pretty young. You'll still have Jimmy Butler. Maybe Jay Crowder recovers. It was pretty neutral, but I got to go up and down. Slightly went up for Marquette. I was pretty optimistic. You'll start to see. 29, I went with Ohio State. They do actually have seven players and a strange amount of left-handed point guards. Mike Conley, D'Angelo Russell, Malachi Branham, all smaller left-handed guards. Branham being their sixth man here. And then Bryce Sensabaugh, probably their second best player next to D'Angelo Russell. But they just lack size with Liddell and Battle being 6'7" and 6'6". And Jayshawn Tate also is your seventh man. I would say trending down, Mike Conley, going to retire soon. The program doesn't look to be adding a ton of like new NBA players, and no one on this team stands out. Like Liddell or Battle could be out of the league very easily. Branham looks like he's sort of a bust at this point. Conley's worse. I would say it's going downhill for Ohio State. 28, we have the Indiana Hoosiers, have less players than Ohio State at 6, but I just like the way it fits better. Khalil Ware, young player I really like. OG Anunoby, better than anyone on Ohio State's roster. Eric Gordon, Hood Schifino's there. And then you have a couple bigs in Thomas Bryant and Trace Jackson Davis. I said trending up because there's a lot of players on this current Indiana team, or maybe not a lot, but a decent amount I expect to be in the league. Guys like Malik Renault, I think, will make the NBA. Potentially a Miles Rice you could be looking at. Maybe like a Mackenzie McBako, hope I said his name right, but players like that I think could help out this team. And they're not super old outside of Eric Gordon. So I think it's a slight trend up for Indiana. Moving on to 27, gonna go pretty fast through like these bottom tier teams, as you probably noticed. But Texas A&M, just the starting five, but I think it's a really solid starting five. Like Chris Middleton, yes, he's old, but still pretty good, better than a lot of players talked about so far. Alex Caruso, Robert Williams, DeAndre Jordan. So you have the size, you have the defense, and you have a little bit of shooting in Chris Middleton. I think it fits pretty well together. I will say clearly a downtrend since Middleton's on the decline. DeAndre Jordan probably going to retire soon. Robert Williams an injury risk, and there's not a ton of new prospects coming out of A&M. But as it stands right now, have them at 27. In number 26, we have the Tennessee Volunteers. This is a six-man team that not a ton of star power, but you have shooting and connecting Tobias Harris. You have guard play coming from Springer and Keon Johnson, and Grant Williams running a little bit of small ball five, and an athletic wing and Julian Phillips off the bench. I would say it's trending up since everyone here is pretty young. The program at Tennessee is going to be a 1 or 2 seed of the tournament that I think you could certainly see some players make the NBA from to add some depth to the roster. And Rick Barnes just running a really good program at Tennessee that I think they're on their way up. 25, breaking into the top 25. Another just a five-man team here, but I think Trey Mann and Bradley Beal. Trey Mann, not Terrence Mann, important to note. That's going to get you a lot of buckets here. And then the rest of it, like Dorian Finney-Smith's a solid defender. Al Horford's still solid. And even though he's getting older, I think it's trending up because this year's team probably going to be a 1 seed. You're going to add guys like Walter Clayton, Alex Condon, maybe a couple other guys to the league that I think will help this be better if we redid this video in a year or 2 or 3. But yeah, Florida at 25. Moving on to number 24, we have the Washington Huskies, led by your best player, DeJounte Murray at the guard position, Markelle Fultz, Matisse Thybulle, Jalen McDaniels, and Isaiah Stewart rounded out. I think you have really good wing defense in McDaniels and Thybulle, and then the guard play is solid. Isaiah Stewart gives you some size. Keon Brooks gives you at least one depth piece. I mean, it's not a great team, but I think it's well-rounded in terms of you have defense, you have shot creation, you have some size. And I would say it's trending down because Washington's just been really bad recently. And like Keon Brooks, I don't know if he's going to stay in the league. Markelle Fultz barely in the league this year. Thybulle, who knows what's going to happen with him. DeJounte Murray seems to be getting worse. I would say they're on the decline, looking more towards dropping. 23, I have LSU running Ben Simmons at the point, Cam Thomas at the shooting guard, and then you have guys like Watford, Eason, Naz Reid, and then Duop Reith off the bench. Still only a six-man unit, but Cam Thomas is going to fill it up. Naz Reid's going to stretch the floor. And then Eason Watford give you solid wings. And if you get Ben Simmons to at least play make a little bit, that's something. Obviously, Ben Simmons is not as good as he used to be, but he's better than what he's been the past couple of years. So that's technically improvement. Cam Thomas still young, Eason young, Reid young. And because of that, I would say this LSU team is trending upwards. 22, the Oregon Ducks. Looking at this team, I think there's an argument they should be lower, but I just like a lot of these players. Like Peyton Pritchard, I think is very underrated. Starting to get the respect, but he's going to fill it up the shooting guard, and I like the fit next to Dylan Brooks. And then, I mean, you can argue it's a bad thing starting Dante, Bol, and Chris Boucher, but having that much size, like it's going to be tough to score inside having Dante, Bol, and Boucher. Like Boucher and Bol help side is crazy with Dante inside. The wingspans there are just insane. And because of that, I like this team better than, a team like Tennessee or Florida. Just so much length on the inside. And a decent, like Bol can fill it up for you, Peyton Pritchard as well. And with that defense, I think they're a pretty solid team. I say they're trending up because there's a couple players on this year's team that I think like Nate Biddle, maybe Jackson Shelstad, maybe. And then guys like Kwame Evans, Mookie Cook, maybe can break out. They were super highly recruited, haven't done much. But I would say it's a slight trend up for this team. 21, the Colorado Buffaloes. We have a 7-man unit here. And Derek White and Spencer Dinwiddie make up a really solid backcourt. And then rookies Cody Williams and Tristan Da Silva in the front court, Jabari Walker running the center. So this is a team clearly undersized. And then KJ Simpson and Alec Burks off the bench. I would say it's a trend up because you play three rookies: Williams, Da Silva, KJ Simpson. Derek White's still good. Like Jabari Walker still relatively young. So I'd say they're improving and a pretty solid team. Like having seven players we've seen most of these teams so far have only had five, maybe six. You could definitely use a center, but pretty solid. Moving into the top 20, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide, like another seven-man unit here. And at the point, Colin Sexton, probably your second best player to Brandon Miller at the three. So you've got scoring. Then Herb Jones and what's his name? Keon Ellis, sorry, are going to give you really good perimeter defense. You lack a little bit of size with Noah Clowney on the inside, but you also have Alex Reese and then JD Davison playing the point. I actually really like this starting five because of the combination of defense and scoring, but you clearly lack depth. It's unfortunate because you've had guys like Josh Primo didn't pan out. I'm forgetting. There's another name I'm forgetting that was drafted highly out of Alabama. I can't remember who it was, but you've had a couple of like high profile prospects that haven't worked out the best. And I would say this is clearly a trend up, but you look at Brandon Miller, Herb Jones, Clowney, Keon Ellis, Colin Sexton, they're going to get better, you would think. And then right now they're one of the best teams in college basketball, and Nate Oates has Alabama operating as one of the best programs in college basketball, continues to recruit well, and will continue to add players in the NBA. In the years to come, Alabama will be much higher on this list if we ever do this video again. At number 19, we have the Texas Longhorns, who have the best player of the video so far, like easily, and Kevin Durant running the two. But Texas's problem is they seem to produce a certain type of player here. I mean, you look at Miles Turner running the four, Jared Allen at the five, Jackson Hayes off the bench, Tristan Thompson off the bench, and Jericho Sims off the bench, and then Kai Jones at the three. Um, yeah, you're not producing a lot of guard play at Texas, which is why I think there's a clear trend up because projected borderline fifth, sixth pick in the draft right now, Trey Johnson, going to give Texas some much needed guard play if this was a real thing. All you've got is Corey Joseph, and then Durant will do most of the ball handling. Clearly, have a knack for producing quality centers, though. Like Jackson Hayes is starting center for the Lakers, Jared Allen for the Cavs, Miles Turner for the Pacers, Jericho Sims solid as well. So good on Texas for how well they produce centers. They come in at number 19. 18, UConn, the back-to-back NCAA champions UConn have really soared up this list just looking at this from recent years. Like Stephon Castle, maybe the rookie of the year starting at the point. Jordan Hawkins starts at year two. And then Andre Jackson at year four, all just come into league the past 2 years, as well as Klingon as your sixth man, and then your depth pieces as well as Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer. You still have Andre Drummond and Tyrese Martin can space the floor. This is a clear trending up team with how much youth they have, as well as UConn's emergence as like maybe the dominant program in college basketball. You're going to add a guy like Liam McNeely. You're going to add potentially an Alex Caravan, and it's one of the best programs. They're certainly going to continue to get really good recruits with what Dan Hurley has proven he can do. This is one of the programs with like the biggest upwards trend. At 17, we have the Michigan State Spartans, and we're back to just a six-man unit, but I think it's a team that fits really well and is just so good defensively that I think it's better than a lot of these teams that have like maybe the seven players. Because if you look at Max Christie and Gary Harris, Draymond Green, Jaren Jackson Jr., it's like it would be really tough to score on these guys. And what they lack at the point guard position, I think Draymond Green makes up for as a playmaker. Jaren Jackson Jr. is good. Miles Bridges is really good. And you have a little bit of help in Xavier Tillman. I went trend upwards because of how good the team is this year in college basketball. Like you're gonna add a guy like Jace Richardson, but I could see the argument for downwards with Draymond Green getting up there in age, so it's a bit borderline. But right now the Spartans come in at 17. At 16, this is the program that has the clearest upwards trend. And I mean, you look at, they've got a lot of players in the league. It's just they lack star power. Because you look at starting five, Moses Moody, Isaiah Joe, Anthony Black, Bobby Portis, Daniel Gafford, all solid players, but none stars, even like a Nick Smith Jr. off the bench. And you look at all these others on this side, guys like Jalen Williams for the Thunder, not J-Dub, the big man, and then other guys, Jordan Walsh. And Arkansas, you've had some guys that haven't lived up to like recruiting hype, like Nick Smith Jr. was supposed to be a star. Moses Moody would hope would be a little better. But with Calipari taking over for Arkansas, the guys you're going to start to recruit and add, like it's already going to start happening. You're going to add Boogie Flan soon, Thiero soon. Next year, Malik Thomas. Like there's got like what we'll see. Spoiler alert: Kentucky's pretty high on this list. What Calipari did at Kentucky producing players going to start to happen at Arkansas. Probably not to that extent, but Arkansas has the biggest upwards trend of anyone on this list. And now let's get into the top 15. At number 15, we have the Baylor Bears. And we saw what Arkansas just had. If we go back to Arkansas, had 11 players, and the Baylor Bears matched that with 11 as well. And again, a lot of good players. You just lack the star power. Like Davion Mitchell, Keontae George, Royce O'Neal, Jeremy Sohan, Eves Misi. All solid players. Torian Prince off the bench. Young guy like Jacoby Walter off the bench. And a clear trend up because Keontae George, I think, is going to be a really good player. A lot of scoring potential. Sohan, Misi, even a guy like Jacoby Walter has a lot of potential. All young guys recently added to the league. Clear trend up. You're adding a guy like VJ Edgecombe. I think we do this video in like 2 years. Baylor could easily be top 10 on this list. Right now, they come in at 15. 14, the UNC Tar Heels, who you would kind of expect to be higher. And you have like good players like Cam Johnson, Harrison Barnes are good wings. Cole Anthony and Kobe White give you scoring punch at the guard position. A few bigs in Sharp and Bradley, but just not what was really like a dominant program under Roy Williams. Never produced the best NBA talent. Like you had guys like Justin Jackson didn't pan out. Theo Pinson, legendary bench warmer. And I would say it's trending up because it's relatively young, and you're going to add like guys soon to the league. Like RJ Davis probably won't be a star, but I think he can make the league. And then Drake Powell, Ian Jackson, Caleb Wilson in a couple of years all will help this out. So they're trending upwards, but not as high as I expected them to be. 13, the Florida State Seminoles, and only a 6-man unit here. So like teams like Arkansas and Baylor, you could argue could be higher just because of the depth, so much more depth. Same, what you can make the argument against North Carolina as well. But I just think the talent here, like having Scotty Barnes, Patrick Williams, Devin Vassell, Terrence Mann, Jonathan Isaac, and Malik Beasley, all 6 really good players. You have scoring, you have amazing defense. Outside of Michigan State, probably the best defensive team on this list. And I think because of that, I think they are better than those Arkansas and Baylor teams. And Scotty Barnes gives you that star power those teams lack. Combined with this defense, they're young. I think you're really good. I said trend up. It's really just neutral. But I couldn't say you're trending down because none of these guys are looking to get worse. Like Scotty Barnes, still young. Vassell, still young. Beasley's not too old yet. So it's really more of a neutral thing. At 12, we have Duke. You would think they would be higher, and that's because this is their B team. Yeah, Duke and another team we'll see, probably know who it is. We're good enough where I broke the team into 2 and included their B team. So we're looking at Jared McCain, Luke Kennard, Cam Reddish, Marvin Bagley, Mason Plumlee, Gary Trent Jr., and these guys off to the side. Not a great team, but a lot of depth and decent shooting. Actually, really good shooting. Like McCain, Luke Kennard, and Gary Trent Jr., that shooting is all really good, and the depth pieces are good. I think, to be honest, now I'm looking at this, should have been probably grouped with like that Arkansas Baylor tier. But when I was originally doing it, I just thought the scoring backcourt and shooting of McCain and Kennard was better. But it's debatable there. And I would say it's on the come up because as Duke continues to add talent, players drop from what you'll see on the A team down to this tier. And it'll continue to make this B team even better. So number 11 is the USC Trojans, who have a lot of players, and you lack a little bit of shooting. Like Evan Mobley and Vucevic, a good front court, but DeRozan at the 3. The spacing there is not great. Collier is not a great shooter. Melton, probably the best shooter in the starting 5. So that is what kind of hinders them. And then the depth is there, but it's not the best. Should be Gibson, not Gibson's. Oh well. And Onyeka Okongwu is good off the bench as well. I say trending up because like Mobley's getting better, Collier's getting better. Okongwu is still young-ish. You're adding like Elijah Arenas probably pretty soon. I think he looks really good. So I would say it's a general trend up for USC. even though guys like DeRozan and Vucevic do get older. 10, Virginia. I was honestly surprised by how high Virginia ended up being. But when you look at like Malcolm Brogdon, Trey Murphy, DeAndre Hunter, Ryan Dunn, and then Jay Huff with Jerome and Hauser off the bench, and then a couple just like Anthony Gill, Reese Beekman aren't much, but it's good to have depth. And like they're up there with Florida State and Michigan State as the best defensive teams. Like the switching that would be going on 2 through 4 and Trey Murphy, DeAndre Hunter, Ryan Dunn, if that was a real team, would be pretty crazy. And I would say trend up because although the Virginia program has gotten worse in college basketball, Trey Murphy continues to ascend. Ryan Dunn, I would think, will improve. Ty Jerome seems to still be getting better. DeAndre Hunter has been improving since he got to the Cavs. So I would say it's a trend up for this team. At 9, the Villanova Wildcats, or, the New York Knicks. Look at Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, DiVincenzo. I mean, that was basically an NBA team that was pretty good for a while, like for a little bit. So, I mean, Mikal Bridges didn't actually play DiVincenzo. But the idea of this team is basically the same thing the Knicks have constructed, which is a really good NBA team. Obviously, you lack some size starting Robinson Earl at the center. But then Cam Whitmore, Sadiq Bey off the bench, Kyle Lowry, Colin Gillespie, who just basically saved a game for my Phoenix Suns last week. This is a really good team. You have the star power in Jalen Brunson, arguably the best player we've seen on the list so far. Like between him and probably Kevin Durant, I would say up to this point. Maybe I forgot someone. And then Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart, great role players. DiVincenzo shooting. This is a trend up as well because Brunson, DiVincenzo, Bridges, Hart still in their primes. Whitmore still young. Trend up. Villanova team is very solid. At 8, the Jayhawks, who I thought would be a little higher, but they just don't have any point guards in the league. What they do have, though, is Joel Embiid, who, when healthy, probably the best player we've seen so far, like when he looks like an MVP. That is probably gone at this point, though, so that does hinder them. But you still have Wiggins and Oubre and Grady Dick and Christian Brown and O'Shea Agbaji, all these other guys. A lot of really good wings, a lot of shooting, star player in Embiid, but you just lack primary ball handling and distribution from a point guard, and that really limits them. I'd say trend up because Darren Peterson, maybe next year's number 1 pick, coming to Lawrence, Kansas next season. And that is, I think, a reason to be looking at an upwards trend for the Jayhawks. At 7, we have the Michigan Wolverines. You're looking at a team with Poole and Karis LeVert, Jet Howard, and then Franz Wagner being your star, and really good depth, like a legit 10-man rotation. And I think it's a trend up because Wagner continues to get better. It's a relatively young team with guys like Houston and Howard and Buffkin that will probably get at least a little better. And a really good team here in Michigan, maybe the best team from the Big Ten, but they are just behind UCLA, who, when you look, just a crazy amount of good guard play in Drew Holiday, Norman Powell, Zach LaVine, Russell Westbrook, Lonzo Ball, Aaron Holiday, just so many good guards. You lack a bit in the front court, like Kevon Looney, Adem Bona, not the best. And then your power forwards, Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, are a bit older. So I went Hawkes at the 4. And I would say it's a trend up, but this one is really debatable because Holiday gets older, Westbrook gets older, but some of these guys like Watson and Juzang are really young, Hawkes. So this one was super debatable, and the program's in a good state right now. I was iffy on this one. I was just a little bit optimistic for them. At 5, we have the Arizona Wildcats, who I think are better than UCLA just because of the size. Like a front court of Ayton, Aaron Gordon, Lauri Markkanen would dominate a lot of teams, I think, because of just how much bigger they would be. And then Benedict Matherin's very good, and TJ McConnell, I think, an underrated point guard. And you have the depth, right? Josh Green's a good player. Pele Larson, Keyshawn Johnson, Christian Koloko, Zeke Naji, Dalen Terry. These guys are young, but I think can be good role players on a team. And it's upwards trend because Arizona is one of the best programs in college basketball and will continue to add talent to the league. They are coming in at number 5. At 4, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, not even in a power conference and coming at the top 4. The best defensive backcourt on this whole list in Nembhard and Suggs, and then maybe the best front court in Holmgren and Sabonis, with all these good players off the bench like Hachimura and Julian Strother and Brandon Clark. This is a really good team. The Undermark Few has just continued to produce NBA talent. They're definitely upwards trending. And at number 4, for number 3, we have Kentucky. The B team. Look, Tyrese Maxey and Tyler Hero, they were good enough to make the A team, but it wasn't really a fit. So I ended up putting them here with Shaden Sharp and Julius Randle. Malik Monk as your sixth man with Emmanuel Quickly, rookies Reed Shepard and Rob Dillingham. This is just ridiculous. This is wait till you see the A team. This team just has so great guard play. Just Maxi Hero with all these other guys. The guard play alone gets them top three, clearly trending up. At two, we have Duke, the A team, and they have the best forwards of anyone on this list. You're looking at Jason Tatum, Banchero, Zion, Brandon Ingram, Jalen Johnson. And then the bigs are solid with Lively and Mark Williams, Wendell Carter Jr. And then you obviously Kyrie Irving at the point guard is great with Tyus Jones as well. You're going to be adding guys like Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, Kaman Maliwak to the league, Cam Boozer next year. I mean, Duke's ridiculous, and it's kind of crazy they aren't first, but this Kentucky team with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, probably this year's MVP, Devin Booker, Keldon Johnson for wing play, but then Anthony Davis, Karl-Anthony Towns, De'Aaron Fox, Jamal Murray, Bam Adebayo as your top eight is ridiculous to still have Cason Wallace and PJ Washington, Jared Vanderbilt. I mean, you could throw in Maxey. I just wanted to, it felt like he wouldn't even get playing time, which is insane. Same with Hero. This is trending up still because a lot of these guys are young, like Gilgeous-Alexander, Booker, and these are lots of the best players in the league. Kentucky is a clear number one. All right, that is everyone on the list. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching. Until next time.